Hello and welcome. This is Margherita Crystal Lotus, and today we are going to talk about the chakras. And this is the second episode in our series of chakras. And today we're going to talk about the second or the sacral chakra. And with me here today, I have my friend Rosanna Martella. Say hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So why do we do this hangout about chakras? We want to make sure that people are understanding that chakras are the things that runs our life, and it's very important to know so that we can actually heal the problems in our lives. So I am Margherita Crystal Lotus. I work with women who are stressed and overwhelmed, and I help them to get over these emotional problems so they can find new relationships and even get a new job or a flourishing career. And Rosanna, over to you.
Hi, I am Rosanna, and I am a health and nutritional counselor. I have been in sensitive and intuitive working with people for over 20 years, and I do acupressure, shiatsu massage, and distant healings, and I specialize in gluten intolerance and celiac disease.
Okay. So let's dive in and talk about the second chakra. And some people have called it the damnation chakra or the celebration chakra. And a little bit later, Rosanna's going to explain what that means. But first of all, what are chakras? And in particular, what is the sacral chakra?
Chakras are energy wheels that are attached to our spinal column, and they're connected to our glandular system, and they're energy. They're energy wheels that allowed us to function and to connect with our body, internal body, with the external world. They are the second chakra, particularly, is located in the lower abdomen, and it is near the sacral plexus. And the second chakra is the center of the feelings, emotions and pleasures, intimacy and connections, movement and change.
Yes. And so how does the second chakra develop? Let's say when the little baby are growing, what does the development there?
Yes, the second chakra develops from between the 6 months old to 2 years old. And the tasks of this chakra, it's exploration of the world and locomotions, because that's when we start to walk around and explore.
Yeah. And what keeps the chakra healthy and moving? What is it?
Well, first of all, we have learned to learn how to separate our attachments from mama, because until 6 months old we depend completely from mother, and so as soon as we start to move around and to see the world around us, we learn how to be separated. But it also deals with safety and support and emotional security, and it's like we explore the environment around us, and it gives us self-gratification.
Yeah. And I also know that the second chakra has to do with emotion. Can you talk about the second chakra and the feelings, emotion?
Yes, well, the second chakra deals with pleasure and is blocked by guilt. And just like we talked about last time about the basic chakra, that is the foundation where all the other chakras comes up from, this chakra now, the basic chakra, has made the container to hold the water that the second chakra is. The second chakra is movement. It's almost like water. It's always moving. So while before the first chakra was connected to the earth, now the second chakra is connected to the water. And we learn to change. We learn that there is all this movement going in water, and we need to keep it moving. It is because all the feelings come up from our subconscious, and then we give them names because we call them emotions, and each emotion has a different name for us. And we tend to
Can you repeat? You were frozen there for a moment. Say that again.
Okay. Where did I freeze? I don't know. But anyway, this container of water now, it's full of feelings. The feelings that they come up from our basic soul. And those feelings become emotions. We turn them into different names. And these names are either good or bad, because this is, in this world, we have this polarized world that was created by people before us, that came here before us, and they made this polarization between good and bad, light and dark, and all of this, it's making these emotions either good or bad. So as a child, when we are just learning how to deal with all this, we recognize that certain emotions are not good, so we don't even want to acknowledge them. Or the other emotions that are good, like being happy and having fun and all of that kind of stuff, that is what we want. But this way, we completely forget that we need to move that water. We need to move these emotions. As they come up, we deal with them and we enjoy them or not, and then we need to let them go. But if we demonize some of them, then those emotions, they get buried in our subconscious, and that becomes a trauma.
So you mean that we suppress them inside?
Yes,
we stuff them down?
Right, and that brings out the guilt.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so talk about the guilt a little bit more.
Well, when the person feels guilty, then there is this other added thing to the trauma, that if we are not treated the way we should be treated at that age, we find that it's our fault that mommy is angry, or it's our fault that mommy and daddy are fighting, or it's our fault that mommy comes home from work and she doesn't want to play with me. So all of those feelings, they start to be buried in our subconscious, and they making these trauma, they making these emotions, these energies that they're blocked in there. And as we grow, the emotions they get bigger problems. As a child, as a baby, we have little problems, but as we grow, the problems get bigger and bigger. And so
they escalate, like you build a little bit of suppression, and then you fill, your backpack or your belly pack with the more things. Is that what you mean?
Yes. And not only that, but as I said last time, these trauma are almost like cocoons that they're embedded in our energy field. So when a same type of trauma or same type of situation comes to us, it kind of opens up all of that energy, and it makes it go around the energy, the entire aura, and then things go over and over and over in the same. It seems like that we're having the same problems over and over again all the time.
Can we do a little smudging here to illustrate that we have to let go of these things?
Yes.
So we have a little, it's just sage, natural white sage here. And then imagine when you're watching this, the viewers watching this, that you are now being really cleansed here and all over, so that you have an opportunity to let go of all of that. You don't have to hold it in.
Right, right. So the senses are a gateway between the internal and the external world. So when we get these sensations and we learn that there is emotions, the emotions are those things that makes us experience the world. Now, if we acknowledge these emotions and we love them and then we let them go, the next emotion comes up and we do the same thing with that. This is what it's the experience of being alive on earth. But
Yeah,
if we decided
that's really, really important, right? I know you have a case study or personal story. Is this the time to say that now?
well, I want to talk a little bit more about how children tend to want pleasure, because children are so happy. They're usually happy. They want to play. Play in its movement and its pleasure to the nth degree. They want to play with their toys. They want to run around. They want to dance. They want to explore. So all of that, it's so important. But if the parent comes in and had a very difficult time at work and is very stressed, then the child wants to play, and the mother and the father are having some arguments about other stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the child, but they stop the child from being happy and joyful because they're not happy and joyful. But then the child internalize that maybe it's his problem, so he starts to feel guilty, and that is where it ruins the child at that age, especially at that age, when it's so free, and it doesn't have filters to say, well, this is not my problem, it's mommy and daddy problem. So there is all these children that they're becoming, they get denied the pleasure of life. And so as we grow up, we also we're said, well, now it's time to be an adult. You can't do that anymore. So as we grow up, that gets even worse, because now we got to think of what we're going to do when we're going to grow up, where we're going to study to have a job and all of that. So we're denied pleasure. And we become very, very unhappy because of it. And we don't realize that this is a pattern that it has just escalated over the years, until we become so unhappy, and then life takes over in a very difficult direction. Mm-hmm. So then there is all these emotions now that have been suppressed, pushed down into our soul, into our subconscious, and we don't want to deal with them because we think that those are not good. They're not good things. We shouldn't show that part of us now. We shouldn't show that part that it's not happy to other people. And that only makes more needs. So needs are necessary, but we demonize them, and we decided that we cannot have those needs. Children have needs. They often feel shame of their needs because of the way they were told. Parents maybe have not been able to meet their needs. Maybe the mother was divorced and she was the only person bringing money at home, and they didn't have enough money to go and buy things and to do have vacations and have happy days. The mother comes home at night and she's extremely tired, and she doesn't want to deal with a kid that wants to bounce off the walls and play and do all these things. So the child becomes very needy, and that only makes it more difficult for the child, but also for the mother, which has all this stress that she's carrying around all day long. So these desires and are emotional impulses that they're not allowed to move. They're not allowed to make that water be freely moving and exchange with the external world and let them go. you know.
Well,
So that,
it's like something like the problems with divorces these days, right? Uh,
yeah,
Maybe is a result of the second chakra traumas in the childhood. And when we have this guilt in us, how can we be a person that is healthy in that respect? And of course, the relationship fails.
yes. And not only that, then this shadow, that all these emotions that we don't want to even acknowledge that they're there for us, it becomes a dark alley where people just don't want to get in. And so they start to feel very righteous, very like they're the best of the best, and everybody else around them are not good. So they project into others their shadow in order to feel righteous themselves. And that it's a very uncomfortable thing for the people that they're friends with them, the people that they're around them, because the other person feels that this person is judging them in the wrong way, and that makes it very hard for that person to continue to have a good amount of friends, because friends are starting to leave when they're feeling that the person is being very judgmental, and that person is putting them down or offending them because of these shadow emotions that they have within themselves that they project in others so that they can feel good about themselves.
So what you're saying is that when you're with a person who judges you, they are the ones who have these problems, particularly in the second chakra, right?
Yes. And the more the other person, the friend or whatever, it's emotionally balanced and it has this intuition, that person feels that is being judged. That person feels all these emotions coming in from their friends or their acquaintances, and then they get to the point that they don't want to be with that kind of feeling anymore. They don't want to be judged that way, because we are all have good emotions and bad emotions, but if we let them, if we accept all of them just the way they are, and we love our emotions because that is part of life, then we don't feel like we have to project them on others. We actually are believing and understanding that the other person is having a hard time at that moment, and don't feel upset about it. But
Yeah.
if that is happening over and over and over again, it gets to a point, you know, after years of rejection and guilt throwing at them, then they don't want to be with that person anymore. So these people, they become very lonely, and they close up into their own shell, and that it's also no good.
Yeah. So what do you do about that? How can we get out of this state?
Oh, okay. Well, to get out of the state is always to be moving. And I have done a lot of things. One of them is to go dancing, and I love dance. So sometimes I even dance in my home house by myself with the music. I love disco music, and so I take off this heaviness that it's around me by just dancing and moving my body. There is also those people that go jogging and running. That is another way of releasing, and that's why those people feel better. It's not just to lose weight that people go run. They feel like that it's a natural high. It's a natural high, yes, because it gets rid of stress. It gets rid of all these blocked things that are inside of our subconscious. And also, I love drumming, so I have this big African drum, and I drum a couple times a week. I have a meetup. I meet up in my house, and we are doing drumming, and I love it because drumming is grounding. And you know, it's this energy that it needs to go up, but there is also the equal energy that it goes down, that it needs to be charged down to Mother Earth. So by drumming, I feel like I am really grounding. My energy is just moving down, and Mother Earth takes it all for me, and I feel so much better after a drumming circle.
And I have my drum cup, and this is a Gemby cup where I have my coffee in, and I love it. And it was made, I bought it from a friend who makes drums, and so I thought that, you know.
That's wonderful. That is really great. So, but there is also another aspect of that we haven't touched, that it is sexuality. Now, sexuality, it's the second chakra demon, if we can say, but also the pleasure. It's both, depending on which way we are using it. Sexuality, it can be rejected by some people and pushed into the shadow. And when that is done, then there is really some very bad stuff that happens around, you know, like serial killers and you know, these people have been treated to not believe and understand that sex is just fine. Sex, it doesn't even have to be sexual desire or sexual connection with another person. Sex could be redirect energy to create. It's a creative energy. So I redirect my sexual energy towards creating paintings and sculptures and creating new things. That it's another way of directing energy, that it cannot be it cannot be released in a different way. So it doesn't have to always culminate in sexual acts. You know, it can be directed in different ways. But what happens is that this sexuality has been becoming so wounded and mismanaged that you know, then there is rape, there is abuses, there is sexual abuse, there is enmeshment, there is you know, all this emotional stuff that it's released in the wrong way, and there is a lot of pain and agonies that it's created on others, that it shouldn't be there, because sex and pleasure, it's what is the basic second chakra energy, you know. So that it's the effect of abuses, we see it in all different ways in these days, and it's an obvious assault to the second chakra.
Isn't it so that the sexual energies in the men and the woman is different? I've heard that the sexual organs is actually in the root chakra for the man, but for a female it's in the second chakra.
Oh, I didn't know about that. This is the first time that I hear about it. But I know that you know, we have different needs between men and women, but they're both needed. And you know, sometimes we in the world, the women and the girls are put down because they're girls, and they're considered as inferior beings because they're not as strong as men. But if God created and the universe created men and women, it means that the two of them are needed, not just one, and that it has to oppress the other. You know, I grew up in a family that, you know, with my mother, that believed that girls were not important. So I'm dealing with a lot of that stress through my first and second chakra, and I've learned to release it with EFT. I discovered what is embedded in my second chakra, that it made my traumas when my brother was born, when I was very little. I was 5 years old when he was born. And I started to realize that my mother loved him and cared for him in a different way and a much more stronger way than she did with me. So that created a big trauma in me. And that was all the guilt that I had accumulated as the result of that trauma. So now I'm still working on it. I'm working on releasing it and release this hate that I have for my brother, because I feel like he has stolen my mother's love. And
that is huge.
I
think that's a big problem for many women.
For all the women in the world, we have been put down for so many centuries, so many millennia. It's time for the world to wake up to the fact that women work from their heart, while men are not working from their heart. They're working from their mind, which it's all, it's all another story. So it's only when these two energies unite, these two energies are put together to create, that's when peace on earth can become. Because men don't know when to stop. They're only going for the war. They only go for the war machine and the fight. And we have to be there to tell them it's time to stop.
Yeah.
It's got to stop. This is not the way to live. This is not the way to live happy within us, with each other, and with our children. This is a new world that we have to create, and there is the energy now around to create it. So we have to understand it, and we have to project it, and we have to believe in it, and to bring love within ourselves so that it can come out.
I get an idea here that, like, in order for the harmony on the planet is going to be established, each woman has to heal the problems that is in the chakra system, and in particular in the second chakra. It's very vulnerable.
Yes.
So as chakra healing, when you do it, I'm talking to you who's watching here, is incredibly important, because if you heal with some of the things we've talked about here, you make a difference in your life.
Definitely.
And I want to ask you, you had the case story there before. Can you share a little bit about that?
Which case story?
Yeah, with the Lyme disease and what happened there.
Oh yes. I have been, I don't know if people know, but if they go to the health mode, they can read my story. I have been bit by a wasp more than 20 years ago. And I had an anaphylactic shock, and I almost died. As a result of that, I ended up having grand mal seizures, and I was diagnosed as a epileptic. I took medicine for 3 years. Then I decided that the side effects were going to kill me before the seizures were. So I decided to go into a natural healing modality, and I learned how to heal myself, and I am been free of that problem for many, many years now. I also, in the recent years, I live near the woods, and there is a lot of deer, and I end up being stung by ticks, and I had Lyme disease. So one day, a friend of mine brought me a book from Louise Hay, and while I was looking through it, I said, well, let me find out what it is about these insects and these little animals that they are biting me all the time. It looks like that, I'm very prone to this. What is this? And I discovered that what Louise Hay says in her book is that I feel guilty about the little things, the little stuff. So that opened up me to my reality of this guilt that I'm carrying around from who knows when, from when I was very, very little. So I decided to acknowledge that guilt. I started sending love to that guilt, especially if it was for little teeny things. It was not even for big, gigantic stuff. So now, as I go through the day and through my life, I am aware when I am thinking about being guilty about some little things. And I completely send love to it and discharge it and send and let it go. So I'm learning how to be guilt-free. And that was because God or the universe was sending me all these little insects to really hurt me. And the pain was tremendous, but I overcame, or I was able to overcome all of that.
That is so amazing. You know, like to just heal that, and I assume it's the most of this guilt is in the second chakra, right?
Yes.
So this is right along with how to heal that.
Definitely it is.
That's so amazing. So we're coming to the end of this episode, and Rosanna, can you give us some takeaway of the second chakra? What we need to know about it in essence?
Well, we have to know that the second chakra is it can be healed in a natural way, and the healing process can take place on its own if we allowed it. So we have to go within us, go find our shadow, go find those things that we don't want to deal with. Send love to it. Send love and light to all of these blockages that we have, all these emotions that we have denied that we have. And as we do that, the energy of the chakra naturally will bring up these emotions, and it will release them as we move, as we exercise, as we walk, as we dance, or we're whatever. That is a natural way of the chakra to discharge whatever is buried inside of it, that it's like, you know, it's like a trash can. You don't want to keep things in a trash can for too long. After a while, it stinks. So this is a natural way of the chakra to release. But we have to acknowledge that there is a problem there, that there is stuck emotions there.
So yeah, that's very important that you can own it, that, yeah, I do have a problem there. And that's the first step, that you're closer to healing it when you actually realize, yes, I have this too, and I can do something about it.
Exactly. It's got to be a conscious acknowledgement that, you know, I acknowledge that I have guilt stuck in there, and I acknowledge that, and I love myself anyway. And I'm sending love to this part of me that I have been looking at. So that helps. And so that's why I'm saying it's the chakra of movement. So in order to get rid of those blockages, we have to move, we have to dance. Just think about the American Indians. They used to have a dance for anything, for, you know, bringing the rain or healing. The shamans, they used to have the drums and drumming, you know, and dancing to these drums and these beats. And that is a healthy way of getting rid of illnesses and getting rid of blockages that our bodies in this modern society has created and has emphasized, you know, in using medicine and chemicals, which they're not needed. It's through understanding and knowledge of how we are made and how we are being. Then we heal all these terrible illnesses that are around us.
Yeah, that is so cool. Thank you so much, Rosanna. And the next episode, we're going to talk about the solar plexus chakra, right?
Yes.
And yeah, so look out for that. And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye.